Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we have a dinosaur that is also a kaiju, and we have a Godzilla figure here to take a look at, and this is one that I was greatly anticipating. This is the Playmates Gorosaurus. And honestly, with the initial line of Playmates figures, I was kind of let down because they almost felt like they were just straight up Bandai bootlegs, but now that they have gone ahead and created us some cooler figures with a Jet Jaguar, we also have a Rodan out, which I have not been able to locate quite yet, and now Gorosaurus. I am actually becoming quite a fan of this Playmates line, and if they continue down this street, I will be a huge fan in no time, especially if they give me a Varan. I would love to have a Varan. My two favorite kaiju, I think, let's say three, because I have three that I kind of rate in the same area as far as Godzilla kaiju go, which would be Varan, Gorosaurus, who we now have, and I've been waiting years to have a Gorosaurus figure, and also Titanosaurus. I don't know why, those three I've just always been a huge fan of, so if they could give me some of those, I would be a fan of Playmates for life. But we now have, again, the Gorosaurus here, which this one was quite the tricky one to find. It seems as though every scalper in the world wants to get their hands on this Gorosaurus and charge stupid prices on eBay and Mercari, so I was lucky enough to actually stumble upon this one at Target, finally for retail, just a few days ago, and I could not be happier to finally have it here in my hands to take a look at with you guys. As far as the box art goes, it's kind of your standard as far as these Playmates Godzilla figures go, and then if we turn it around, we can see exactly a few of the figures I was just talking about with the Rodan and Jet Jaguar here on the back. We have actually reviewed both of these in the past here on the channel with that kind of burning Godzilla and the Jet Jaguar. We now have Gorosaurus, and maybe one day we'll actually find Rodan. But regardless, I'm so psyched about this, so let's pop Gorosaurus out of his box and take a look at him. And here we are. Look at that. It looks so good. I wasn't quite prepared, I don't think, for how nice this was actually going to look with the tail connected. Looking at it in the box, I was like, hey, he looks really good, but he looks kind of a little weird. But honestly, out of package and with the tail connected, it looks so much nicer than I expected it to be. It's a really nice version of a Gorosaurus, and if only like NECA or somebody would have made some alternate figures of the Godzilla line other than Godzilla when they were, producing figures still, it would have been awesome to get a NECA version of a Gorosaurus. But for now, I'll be quite happy with this version from Playmates because it is really cool looking. I always felt like Gorosaurus was almost like a relative of the T-Rex from the last dinosaur. They look so similar, and one of the many reasons that I was always really drawn to Gorosaurus is obviously that he just looks like a really cool vintage old school dinosaur. Like there's nothing overly flashy, nothing overly crazy about him. He's just a straight up kind of a dinosaur with a tail dragging ordeal, so kind of nicely replicating that type of almost a T-Rex, or I guess he's got three fingers, so maybe we can call him an Allosaurus, from when I was a kid, and that's always one of the many reasons I was so drawn to Gorosaurus, and I always liked him so much, and I am beyond over the moon excited to finally have a Gorosaurus in my collection thanks to Playmates. So let's go ahead, jump straight to a closer look right now. So starting up here at the head sculpt of our Gorosaurus, you can see that the majority of Gorosaurus is covered with a very nice large type of an effect of scale detail, but there's not really too much difference as far as the scale detail goes, and that's exactly how he looks in all of the films, so he looks pretty much perfect if you ask me. Very vibrant, honestly, scale detail on this figure. Like the overall quality of these figures are just so much better than the older ones, because if you look back to some of the older Playmates Godzilla figures, I really feel like Playmates has improved so much as far as these Godzilla figures go with the last few releases. And one area that you can really see straight away that they've improved upon with these newer ones, on top of the really nice, very vibrant detail on the figures, would be the mouth. Because the mouths of the older Playmates figures, the ones they released probably about a year or so ago, maybe a little more, had really sloppy paint most of the time for the insides of the mouths. But these newer ones, like you can see the teeth are painted really nicely on this Gorosaurus. There doesn't really appear to be any sloppiness at all. Like every tooth is painted individually, and it's all very, very nicely done. So that is a huge plus compared to previous Playmates figures. You can also see the inside of the mouth has a really nice, very realistic pinkish tone in there, which also looks really good. You can see the nostrils sculpted out up here on the tip of the snout. The eyes are also painted to perfection with a really nice white coloration and then a brown as well as a white spot there to kind of insinuate a little bit of eye shine for our Gorosaurus. Unlike, the Mattel figures and stuff, we don't have any type of a gloss coat on the eyes or the mouths, so that's where the kind of white dot comes into play right there. The coloration of Gorosaurus is just this one solid tone of gray, but that's pretty much how he looks in the films, except here on the underside. You can see that we have kind of a nice creamy color, like an off-white here on the underside, very smooth transition as we get down there to that coloration, which looks really good. You have some really nice skin folds and skin wrinkles here in the neck, the throat region, as the Gorosaurus has his head kind of tilted forward, so you can see how it's wrinkling up the skin. So some really nice attention to detail on the part of Playmates as well. If you get down here into the arms, you can see the arms sport some more beautiful scale detail as well as some nice muscle definition. We have some pretty nice creasing there in the joint of the elbow, and as you move out into the hand, we have some really nicely painted nails of the hand. Very nice and precise as well, no sloppiness there. We also have some ridges that pick up here in the back of Gorosaurus and run down along pretty much the entire course of the figure. You can see that we have more kind of skin creasing and wrinkling and stuff throughout the side of Gorosaurus. The scale detail continues to look really quite nice as we move down into the thigh. Again, look how vibrant that scale detail is. It really pops on this figure. You can also pick up on some nice muscle definition in the thigh as well, and some more wrinkles and creasing as you move down the course of the leg here. You do have a dew claw back here, also nicely painted, and we have nails here in the front of the feet, very nicely painted. I'm really impressed, honestly, with the sculpt, but also the paintwork of this Gorosaurus. You can see, again, we have some more of that kind of creamy color that runs along the insides of the thighs. Same deal over there. And it continues to run down the course of the entire underside of Gorosaurus. We have lots more skin movement shown throughout the entire underside of the figure as you run the entire course of Gorosaurus. You can see how nice that scale detail looks here with the lighter coloration showing it off quite beautifully. You also can see that we have a really nice curve in the tail. Again, more of those ridges that run down the course of the tail, and the detailing of the tail looks really nice. You can also see a little white tip to the end of the tail right there, which is a nice little touch. And pretty much the same thing you're going to see over here because it's a Gorosaurus. He's standing upright in a bipedal, tripod position. You're not going to see, honestly, too much difference over here than what we had just seen on the initial side. So you can see just how beautiful Gorosaurus honestly looks from both sides. Again, the legs are in almost the same position, maybe slightly different. And you can see that the arms are also, again, depending on the way that you position them, but you can see here when they're like right next to each other, they're almost in the same position as well, as is pretty much the entire body of Gorosaurus. All looks just like he did on the previous side, kind of. Not really in any type of a crazy position, just standing there, but that's pretty much exactly what you would expect for a figure like this. But I'm honestly so unbelievably impressed with how nice this figure is compared to the older Playmates. This is far and away so much better than I expected it to be, and an absolutely awesome addition to my collection. As far as articulation goes, we do have neck articulation, so we can turn Gorosaurus's head. We can turn it all the way around if we would really like to, because he's on a swivel. We also have articulation in both arms right here. Pretty smooth overall. And then we have articulation in the legs. That one is a little stiff, as I haven't moved this around at all, really. A little smoother on the opposing leg. And then we have articulation here in the tail, like in the mid area of the tail, just so you can kind of create some alternate positioning for the tail if you would really like, and of course creates a pretty fun playability standpoint for the figure. As far as a size goes, for a length, if we go from the tail to the snout of Gorosaurus, if I can stop moving him along here, you were looking at about 9 3/4 inches, or around the 24.5 centimeter range. And then if we go for a height, about 5.5 inches, or 14 centimeters roughly. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Peppo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line in comparison to our Gorosaurus. To help give you an idea of how large the figure is, it's pretty much right there in that same standard range as far as all of the other Playmates and Bandai figures go of this type. Pretty much follows right around the same size range as those figures, but hopefully these ones here in comparison will help to show you that. And then for a second size comparison, we have some Bandai Godzilla and Anguirus figures, as well as the Playmates Burning Godzilla we just saw on the back of the package in comparison to Gorosaurus. So you can see that Gorosaurus overall is a good bit smaller than the majority of the figures that you see here, but he's not too far off, still sporting a pretty impressive size overall, just not anything massive. The others are obviously all bigger than our poor little Gorosaurus here, but I don't care. I still love Gorosaurus, even if he is the runt of the litter. So as far as this Playmates Gorosaurus figure goes, it is fantastic. So much better than I expected it to be. Maybe that's just me being biased because I love Gorosaurus so much and I've waited so long to get a Gorosaurus into my collection, and now that I have one, I'm just over the moon excited about the fact that I do. I don't really know, but I can tell you that I am definitely a huge fan of this figure. Again, I really feel like Playmates has improved so much as far as their figures go, even from looking at the Burning Godzilla a moment ago compared to the Gorosaurus right here. Like, there's a drastic difference in quality. It's just so much nicer on this Gorosaurus compared to the Burning Godzilla from just a few moments ago in that size comparison. Like, the detail pops nicer on this. It's a lot cleaner looking, and the paintwork is more precise and beautiful on this Gorosaurus. So hopefully Playmates will continue down this path and continue to create nicer and nicer figures as they go, and I will definitely be a fan and continue to collect this line. I wish they could release more figures more often. It seems like it's quite a ways in between releases, but I've waited a very long time to get my hands on a Gorosaurus, so the wait isn't really that big of a deal, I guess. And this Gorosaurus again sports a really, really nice looking sculpt with some beautiful, very vibrant detail and some pretty nice looking paint application. You know, all the paint, although there's not really too much that is really, to a Gorosaurus color-wise, but the paint that's used here is really nice. They nailed the tones of color for the figure, and it's all very precise. Like, the eyes are painted perfectly. There's no sloppiness as far as the eyes go. The teeth are painted perfectly. Every tooth, again, painted individually. Very precise paintwork, and it looks really good. All of the nails on the figure, none of them appear sloppy. All really nicely painted there as well. And on top of the really nice sculpt and really nice paint, we also have some pretty sweet articulation for our Gorosaurus. Not anything amazing, but as far as this style figure goes, like, there's more articulation in these Playmates than we had on the older Bandais, because we have like articulation in the neck and stuff, and that's something that we didn't really get very often when it comes to Bandai figures. So the figure as a whole, honestly, is, in my opinion, a dream come true for me, being a huge fan of Gorosaurus. I cannot even begin to stress how psyched I am to officially have a Gorosaurus in my collection. So if you are interested in picking this up, keep checking back to your local Target, as that's where I acquired mine. Hopefully the scalpers will maybe slow down on stealing this guy away from everybody, and everyone will have a chance to get a hold of it at some point soon. And if you do encounter it, make sure you grab it, because again, it's an awesome, awesome figure. And make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.